Welcome, everyone. Now, if you're like me and a lot of other parents, entrepreneurs, or people who are working away in their 9-to-5s, like when life starts to feel chaotic, most of us double down on the wrong things. Like we try to control outcomes or timelines or the people's moods around us, like the economy, our kids' behavior, maybe how clients are going to act, and then wonder why we feel exhausted or powerless or stuck in survival mode. And so today what we want to cover is we want to cover the playbook for something different, how you move past that. And it's for parents who wake up and they already feel behind. For entrepreneurs who feel like their business is running them, or someone who's an employee who's doing all the right things and still feels like they're drowning. I want to uncover this idea of this playbook for you and how you take back your control with it. Now, I know I spent years trying to fix my life by controlling everything around me. I tried to control my schedule, work, kids' behavior, like all those things, like how people even saw me. And honestly, man, it almost took me out. I know I personally, you may have felt it as well. I was exhausted, overwhelmed. I was constantly bracing for something wrong. I was making stupid decisions. And I kept telling myself that I needed to try harder. I needed to work smarter. I need to anticipate more. Maybe if I tried this new hack or secret or whatever it may be. But the harder I tried to control everything around me, the more powerless I actually felt. And the breaking point came for me, I think it was like a Tuesday afternoon. I could be wrong, but my oldest son, he was young at the time. He came and asked me if we could go play. And I know I snapped at him because I was so fried, not because he did anything wrong, but my brain was it was still spinning about work. It was still spinning about the things that I had zero control over at that point. And the look on his face, that was the moment that started to wake me up a little bit towards this concept of trying to control things. Not because I was being a bad dad, but because I finally realized I was pouring my energy into things that were never meant to be mine to control. They were never meant to be mine to control in the first place. Whether or not somebody signed up, for my program, or the economy cooperated, or people approved me, or whether someone else finally understood the vision I was trying to do, and trying to manage all the things that I couldn't control. I was actually losing, only two things that I could. I was letting go of my attitude and the effort I put into it, because those are the two things you can't control. I didn't even notice it. I missed it. And the wild part is the day that I stopped trying to control everything, nothing around me magically improved. Clients still had problems. The problems we had still didn't disappear, right? But I changed. I stopped reacting and I started responding. I stopped being the passenger to my own life. I started becoming the author again and really changing how I showed up to the people that mattered the most around me. That's when I finally started to feel power again. Not because chaos went away. Chaos doesn't go away. There will always be something. But when you stop giving the authority over your internal world to what that chaos is, it changes everything for you. Let me ask you something and be honest with yourself. Are you burnt out, running on fumes, waking up feeling behind, drowning in the responsibilities that were never yours to choose? Or maybe you're trying to control outcomes, timelines, other people's reactions, feeling like no matter how hard you work, you're still stuck in that same loop. Or are you carrying the guilt, the pressure, or the weight of everyone else's expectations, but not a clear framework of how to actually carry your own? If any of that sounds like you, if any of that connects with you in any sort of a way, hear me out on this. There's nothing wrong with you. There's nothing broken. You're just trying to hold water in your hands. It's keeping you from using those hands to do something more meaningful. Maybe you're a parent who's trying to control kids' behavior choices and it's draining you. Maybe you're an entrepreneur trying to control every outcome of the business and it's burning you out. Maybe as an employee, you're trying to control your promotions or perceptions or office politics and it's leaving you feel powerless. The truth that nobody teaches you is feeling out of control has nothing to do with what's happening around you. It has everything to do with where you're putting your focus. Most people exhaust themselves trying to manage things that were never theirs to control, and we want to change that today. And I totally forgot to do this at the top of the video, and I like to at the beginning of every video say, welcome to the GIVER Method channel. If you're new here, my name is Jake. So glad you're able to join us. If you're back for another video, welcome back. So glad you joined us again. Everything we're going to cover today is grounded in my book, The GIVER Method. I am Jake Talbert. I'm the founder and author of this book, The GIVER Method. Right now, I'll put a link in the description to get it on Amazon because it's on sale. You can get it for anywhere from $2 to $10 based off the version that you purchase. Get a copy for yourself. Get a copy for somebody else. Maybe buy 5 copies and send me a message and I'll, send you something or what. I don't know. Get yourself copies, right? Get them to the people who need them because it is written for people like you and me. I wrote it as to be the playbook, the guidebook to parents, entrepreneurs, or people who are working away in that corporate world because I've been there. I've been all of those things. I know you can't burn everything down and start over from scratch. You can't just go move to the woods to go find yourself. So everything, the stories, action items, exercises, worksheets, everything in the book is meant for people like you and me, so it can fit in the life that you're already living. So go get yourself a copy. I'm going to bring it up a couple more times if you haven't noticed, but you can pause the video, go to Amazon, find The Giver Method by Jake Talbert, or you could always use the link in the description. Make sure you leave a review after you buy it. That always helps out people like me. Now today, we're diving into this idea of like the playbook of controlling your controllables when life feels completely out of control. Not by becoming superhuman, not by fixing every broken system around you, but by finally shifting the power back to where it belongs. Like I said, that's where it's all going to begin to really change for you. And like I said, if you want to dive deeper, get yourself a copy of The Giver Method on Amazon. You can also go follow us on all the social media channels, Facebook, TikTok, Instagram, LinkedIn, under the name The Giver Method. Feel free to check out thegivermethod.com. We've got free resources. Down in the description, I'll have a couple of those resources like the Survival Guide and the Giver Roadmap, and you can get on our newsletter list. Now, some people need some one-on-one coaching. They want someone to guide them through the process. If that's you, check out the coaching link below. It makes sense to book a call. Let's book a call and talk about what that would look like. And then if you have a community, a stage, an audience, an event, or whatever where this sort of message would resonate with them, let's talk about how we can bring it to them in a very real way. There's a link about speaking and podcasting down below. Now, of course, do all the YouTube things. Hit subscribe, tap that bell for notifications, like the video, and comment anything that lands for you along the way. With that, let's stop wasting any time. Let's dive right in. The first practice I want to focus on this playbook of learning to control the controllables, right, is the first practice called the what's actually mine reset. All right, you have to stop spending your life on the things you can't control. Once again, just rehashing a little bit, like most people walk around feeling overwhelmed. Like they aren't struggling because life is objectively harder, for them. It's not harder for them than anyone else's. They're struggling because they're carrying stuff that was never meant to be theirs. Like they were never meant for them to carry in the first place. They're trying to control outcomes and reactions, timing, people, moods, decisions, expectations, like that sit way outside of their actual control. And the worst part is it becomes so normal that we don't even realize how much it's draining the energy from us. So that's why this hey, what's actually mind reset is one of the simplest ways to take your power back, because it gives your brain the visual map that you can control. What are the things I can control? What am I wasting emotional energy on? And once you see the difference, everything shifts. You stop fighting like these unwinnable battles, and you start putting your energy where it actually matters, where you can actually create change. Because here's the thing, before I dive into the how-tos of this, you're the only person with your combination of gifts, superpowers, and experiences, which means you're the only person who can make the impact in other people's lives that you can make, and there are people waiting for you to realize that. Your experiences, the good, the bad, the everything in between, man, we got to get you to that point where you can give from the full energy you have. Part of that is giving up on the things that you can't control and really dialing in the things that you can. So that's why this exercise is going to be so important, is there are people waiting for you to be able to step into what you're becoming, who you're meant to be, and really make that impact that only you can make. So here's what I want you to do for this one. Starting tomorrow morning, before you jump into your day, take 3 to 5 minutes and complete, it's this idea of there's a circle of control, audit or review or whatever. Maybe it's a notebook or a piece of paper that, you're going to keep on your desk or whatever, where what you're going to do is you're going to draw some circles, right? Before chaos hits and everything, so you're going to draw some circles on the page. The labels for it, you're going to have one that's called inner circle, and that's the what I can control. And then you'll have the outer circle, what I can't. And make it quick. It just take 3 minutes to top. We're just writing these out. Then we're going to fill in the inner circle. Write the things that you actually choose today. Things that you what you can choose to do. You can choose your attitude when your boss gives you feedback, the effort you bring to work, what you eat, when you go to bed, how you respond to when your teenager or your kids are stressing you out. The quality of work that you deliver, how you speak to your spouse when you're stressed, whether you follow through on your commitments, where are you going to spend certain time, buckets of your day. Everything in here is about your choices, not the outcomes that follow. What are the things that you can control, that you can choose to do today? Then you're going to fill out the outer circle, where you're going to write down everything stealing mental bandwidth from you that you can't control. Whether your boss promotes you, if your kids listen the first time you tell them, the economy, what your coworker thinks, how traffic's going to be, if your spouse wakes up in a good mood or not, or if they had a dream that you did something terrible to them and they're angry at you, how fast your business grows, your teenagers' decisions that they choose to make. These are things that might be influenced by you, you can make an impact on, but you cannot control the final outcome in the moment today. Okay, so once you've drawn these circles and you've written out these things, now choose where your energy goes. Look at both circles. Most people realize that they're spending about 80% of their emotional energy in that outer circle. And so say this out loud, like, hey, today I'm going to focus on what's mine and release what isn't. And start to feel the shift of like, I'm going to release, like, I'm not going to be stressed about if my boss promotes me today or not. I choose to show up as the type of person someone would want to promote. Things like that. And then at the end of the day, review what happened. You come back to your circles and highlight the things that you focus, like you stayed focused on, right? In that, especially in that inner circle. Proof that you're building trust. Choose one thing from the outer circle that you want to release tomorrow and cross it out and be like, hey, that's not mine. I'm not carrying that anymore. Right? If you want like a bonus to this, like once you start sharing these with people, maybe share with someone really close to you, like let them maybe gently point you where you're carrying other things that aren't yours that maybe you're not realizing. Sometimes someone else can see things long before we can. Because here's like every overwhelmed parent, burnout entrepreneur, or exhausted employee that I've ever talked to or worked with, coached, like they've got a problem. Like they're pouring their energy into things that they could influence, but not control. And when you do that long enough, you start believing that you're powerless. So this practice flips that. The two circles, like 3 minutes, like, and then suddenly you see exactly where your real power lives, like in your attitude, your effort, your preparation, your follow through, and your choices to the responses that you have. When you stop trying to hold water in your hands and focus on what's actually yours, you stop feeling helpless. You start feeling really capable. That's how you shift from like reaction mode to directing the life that you have. Like that's how you stop being the passenger and actually become the author to what you're doing. And that takes us into the second practice, which is the like show up with what you have method. Because here's a concept that's crazy for you to think about. Your 100% like doesn't look the same every single day. And that's fine. That's not a failure. There's nothing wrong with that. Most people never hear that concept. Your energy, your capacity, that mental bandwidth, we all know, like, gosh, it's not the same every day. Sometimes I'm super motivated. Sometimes I'm not. And that happens. Sometimes anxiety kicks in. Sometimes I didn't sleep well. Sometimes I'm hungry. Like there's all sorts of things that could play into that. Most people grade themselves like it should be consistent day to day. That's why so many parents feel like they're failing, entrepreneurs feel like they're falling behind, and employees feel like they're never enough. So this practice shifts that. It gives you permission to match your efforts with what your actual capacity is. Not some fantasy version of someone who slept perfectly, wasn't stressed, had no surprises, is loved and appreciated by everyone around them, and is, had the best meal of their life already. Like, no, that's not what it's going to be. This is how it breaks like the kind of that all or nothing cycle that we think we should be showing up as. Even if you do it for a few days and like, gosh, you might crash for the next day. Like there's all sorts of ways that this shows up. When you learn how to show up with what you have today, not what you wish you had, you stop beating yourself up and you start being like building real momentum and being able to be more authentic in what you choose to do today. So here's what I want you to do. Starting today, you're going to do this idea of like this scaled effort protocol is what it would essentially be. So like this is that show up with what you have method, right? You're going to change how you measure success in your day by giving yourself permission to scale your effort to match your actual capacity. So the first thing is check your capacity, and like this is for real, not for Instagram, right? Every morning, if you take 30 seconds, ask yourself like, hey, where am I today? Like, what do I realistically have to give? And give yourself a scale of 1 to 10 of what that looks like. Maybe 8 to 10, you've got tons of fuel, you're ready to push. Maybe as a 5 to 7, you're like, man, I'm fine, but I'm not firing all cylinders. Something feels off. Or maybe 1 to 4, like you feel like you're on fumes. Maybe it's a survival mode day. Once again, there's no judgment, there's no guilt. It's just being honest with where you are for the day. Then redefine what 100% means today. 100% today means very different what it meant yesterday or what it could mean tomorrow. If you're in that high capacity day, right? An 8 to 10 if you graded yourself, go tackle some major projects, have some hard conversations, exercise with tons of intensity, be fully present, go try something new and exciting. But if you're a medium capacity day, that 5 to 7 range, maybe handle your normal workload. Do one meaningful task with intentionality. Move your body, in a lighter, moderate way to kind of just get the blood going. Maintain communication and boundaries. Just keep yourself in that good place, but make some slight progress. Do something. And then if it's a low capacity day, let's say you're on a 1 to 4, set yourself some things that you could knock off that it's I'm doing the things I can control right now. I'm going to brush my teeth. I'm going to take a shower. I'm going to drink some water. I'm going to send that text to somebody I need. And I'm going to show up with what I have without making things worse. I'm not going to show up with nothing, but maybe my minimum today is all I have. And I'm going to make sure that in that minimum, I'm authentic and present. Listen, brushing your teeth, sending that one message, like they count when you're barely holding on. And it may sound silly to you, but like if you've been in one of those days, you understand that sometimes brushing your teeth, drinking water, eating a meal is more than you have the energy to handle. There's not a ton of days that, every person experiences that, but when it does, sometimes you just got to have those little wins. Telling your brain we're moving forward, we're making progress. Anything that you could do throughout the day with a little bit more intentionality, like that brings more of you to the table. It brings more of you being in controlling what the things you can control. And then step 3, do the smallest version of a thing you want to do. So this is the show up anyway sort of a concept. Like, if you want to work out, put your shoes on. You want to work on your business, like open up your laptop. You want to reconnect with your spouse, like sit next to them. Or start a project, like you're going to maybe write out the first sentence. You want to be more present? Put your phone in the other room. Showing up is often like, enough to unlock momentum. It's like, I'm just going to start. I'm going to put my running shoes on and I'm going to walk out that front door. I'm going to sit down and at least start the conversation. I'm going to put away all the distractions. It may not be perfect. That happens, right? Even if it doesn't happen perfectly, like you still kept the promise to yourself. You still got yourself closer to creating momentum. But you'll be surprised how many times those things then take off and the momentum just starts to build from there. And that rewires your brain to notice those things so much more and get excited to do them more. And step 4, like in this sort of an idea, is like there's this 5-minute rule where you set a timer for 5 minutes. You tell yourself like, hey, I only have to do this for 5 minutes. Sometimes there's the things that are outside of our control, and it's like, well, let me just choose to do it for a little bit. Like it's shockingly effective. Once you get moving, your brain often wants to keep going. On days that it doesn't, like it's still a win. 5 minutes is done. Like 5 minutes of anything being done is better than an hour of thinking about it or stressing about it or planning it. 5 minutes of something being done changes who you are. At the end of your day, ask yourself 2 simple questions. Like you're going to rate yourself on a scale of 1 to 10 to these questions. Number 1, like, did I bring the best attitude I could today? Not my best attitude I could ever have any single day of any single week. Like, no, today with what I had. And then the second, did I give my best effort? That I could with what I had. And that's it. Once again, there's no outcome goals, no productivity, like guilt, no comparison. Like, that's it. And then you can write a sentence saying, hey, tomorrow, here's one thing I can control better. And that's going to build some more like self-trust and things like that. And maybe you start some sort of a log of victories you had along the way, especially for low capacity days where you just write out the tiny wins. Like, hey, I did send that email. Like, I made the lunches for the kids. I got to work. I took that walk. I folded up some towels. I drank enough water today. I actually put clothes, like whatever. Like when life feels heavy, this log becomes proof like, hey, I'm doing something. Like most people blame themselves for not being able to give yesterday's 100% today, but life doesn't work like that. Your capacity fluctuates, your energy fluctuates, your stress fluctuates. Integrity doesn't. That's why I said the 2 things you can always control, your attitude and the energy that you're going to put into things. Being intentional, how you're showing up. Like this helps you break free from the pressure of trying to be superhuman. And instead, it's just like, I'm going to show up honestly, consistently with self-respect and it teaches like, hey, it may not be perfect conditions, but I can keep moving forward, right? That's how you start to build this self-trust back. When you start to stack these days on top of each other, you become someone who doesn't burn out. It's someone, you're not someone who maybe disappears because life got hard. You're someone who knows how to keep moving forward no matter what the situation may be. And then there's the 3rd practice, which is this attitude reset system, right? This is how you shift your lens when your days are falling apart. Like most people think that attitude means, being positive. But when you're running on fumes, if you're like stressed, if you're barely hanging on, like when I've been there, people being like, hey, just think positive. Like that's almost like an insult, right? So take that off the table right now. This attitude reset system isn't about pretending you're okay. It's about choosing the lens you're looking through, especially on the days where everything like just wants to choose the worst case scenario for you. Because like here's the part that nobody tells you. Almost every situation has multiple interpretations. Your brain just picks the one that drains you the fastest a lot. Then it's a negativity bias. It's a thing. It's trying to protect you, but like it's keeping you stuck. So this is about giving you the system, like the tools to help you interrupt the spiral and choose like how you want to keep moving forward. Like a 1-degree shift is all it takes. You don't need a personality transplant. You don't need to like move to the woods to find yourself again. Like you just need to learn how to steer the mental wheel before it drives off a cliff. So here's what I want you to do. Like starting today, I want you to implement this, like this sort of a attitude steering system, right? There's 4 specific tools I want you to focus on where you notice yourself spiraling or reacting or getting pulled into these like worst case scenarios. The first one is the 3-second reframe. This is the fastest like pattern interruption that you'll ever have. When you feel yourself spiraling into these worst case scenarios, stop for 3 seconds and ask like, hey, is this the story I'm telling myself? Like, is it helping me or hurting me? Once again, you're not focusing on positivity here. You're just challenging the first interpretation. You know, hey, your boss didn't answer your email. I'm in trouble. No, like, or maybe they're busy. You know, maybe they didn't see it. Maybe it just means nothing at all. Hey, my teenager feels like they're pulling away. Like, I'm a terrible parent. Like, no, maybe you're just being a teenager, or they're processing something, or maybe I could open up the door for connection later. Like, whatever it is, sometimes your reframe is just simply like, hey, I actually don't know what this means yet. Yet is such an amazing word because it leaves the door open for you. You know, that alone can stop the spiral of where you're going. Second tool is the gratitude as an action, not a feeling. Like, you don't need to feel like grateful to practice gratitude. You just need to name one thing that's working right now. Like, set a daily reminder, and when it goes off, like, say it out loud. Hey, one thing I can acknowledge like right now is like this. Here's one thing that's happening. Like, I didn't give up today. My kid came to me for something, which means they can trust me. I handled this one thing that I didn't want to do. You know, hey, you know, I have another chance tomorrow. Like, once again, we're rewiring our brain to look for what's true, not what's threatening. The third thing is this, the lens question, like the lens you're looking through. When you feel heavy or things feel confusing, ask like, hey, if I believed the best possible explanation instead of the worst, what would change? Once again, we're not trying to be naive. It's just about choosing, like, you know, we're not going to choose the scariest thing. We're going to interrupt that. You know, you don't have to have the whole story. You know, when it's like, hey, my spouse feels like they're being distant. Like, the worst lens is like, oh, they're done with me. You know, the better lens is like, hey, you know what? They're overwhelmed. Maybe they need some support. You know, your idea gets rejected. Your worst lens is like, I've got nothing valuable to offer. The better lens is like, hey, the timing or format was off. Hey, the potential's still here. Once again, this is about, you're not lying to yourself. You're just refusing to take the worst case, the catastrophe, like into it, like as truth. Like, you don't have the evidence for that. Think about what the other options could be. And then the fourth tool is this attitude anchor. You know, so this is a sentence that you can come back to when your day is trying to hijack you in some sort of way. Choose one of the phrases, like a phrase that hits you like closest, like, you know, in the heart and such. Like, hey, I choose calm over chaos. I choose to control the controllables. Like, this feeling of is information. It's not truth. I'm doing my best. Whatever it is, put it on your phone, like on the mirror and on your car dashboard. And when you feel your day slipping, say it out loud. Let it interrupt that mental storm of where you're at. Because when life gets heavy, your attitude becomes this, like, your steering wheel. And not in like a cheesy, like, oh, go think all the happy thoughts way. Like, you choose the lens that you want to keep moving forward with. Most people don't realize how much of their emotional exhaustion comes from believing the harshest version of everything that they're hearing. Their brain's just doing it naturally. But when you pause and challenge the story, pick a different lens and stop reacting to it, man, you're not only rewriting what your reality is, you're stopping your brain from lying about it. So just a 3-second pause with one acknowledgement, an anchor phrase, some sort of interruption, like, that's how you reclaim this sort of a power. And then our fourth area, the fourth practice, is like the momentum starter. This is how you create forward momentum even when you feel completely stuck. Because there are days when even the simplest tasks feel like you're climbing any sort, like a massive mountain. If you're tired, you're burned out, you're overwhelmed, you got anxiety, like the idea of any sort of take massive action or fix everything, like, feels like a cruel joke to you. But the truth, like, most people never hear is like, you don't need to take massive action. You just need some sort of movement. Movement always starts small. That's this idea of the momentum, like, starter. You know, movement starter. Think of it that way. Like, you know, it's what you use when you're feeling paralyzed. When your brain's foggy, emotions are heavy, your capacity, like, is basically feels like it's running on fumes already. Instead of trying to overhaul your life and a thing, well, you prove to yourself, like, you don't have to stay stuck with one small moment of movement, some momentum. It's like a psychological how it will break, like, the way you've been thinking and seeing your day-to-day life and the energy that comes back from it. You're not building motivation, you're building evidence. And the evidence is what rebuilds that self-trust. So starting right now, implement this momentum starter where, like, whenever you feel overwhelmed or paralyzed, emotionally flat, like, breaking the resistance of that with small, actionable, like, steps that you can do. And so the first thing is pick the smallest action you could do. Like, when you're overwhelmed, your brain's trying to convince you there's nothing you could help, like, it's a lie. Ask yourself, like, what's the smallest thing I could do right now that's 100% in my control? And guess what? It could be, like, embarrassingly small. It's okay if it's that small. Like, so simple that it's silly Like, that's the point. Like, we're just removing the resistance. Like what we mentioned earlier, like as a parent, like maybe you're like, hey, I'm gonna drink a glass of water. I'm just gonna put the dishes in the dishwasher. I'm gonna text that one person. Yeah, I'm just gonna sit with my spouse for a few minutes. You know, in business, like it could be, I'm gonna open my laptop. I'm gonna write that first sentence. I'm gonna look at tomorrow's calendar and see how I can show up differently. Maybe I'm gonna organize the corner in my workspace, you know. I'm gonna write down one thing that I need to address. Like whatever it is, like it feels too small, perfect, that's still fine. It just means that you can actually go do it. And then the second thing there is make a declaration right before you do it. Say it out loud. Hey, I'm proving to myself that I don't have to stay stuck. And it sounds simple, but it's powerful because it's shifting your identity in real time. The words you say out loud control how your brain perceives reality. You know, once again, you're not performing this task like in performance mode. You're becoming the kind of person who takes action. And then step 3 is like, you got to do the action. Like, do it right then, immediately. No overthinking, no negotiating, no dramatic like buildup. Just do it. Go get that glass of water. Do that email. Write that sentence. Just the one drawer, whatever. And here's the magic. You know, there's always a tiny shift afterwards. Not huge, but noticeable when your body relaxes a little. Your brain like quiets, your shoulders start to drop because you proved that you can move forward. And then like, hey, after that action, like what's next? Ask what's next? What's the next simplest thing I can do? And that's it, just one step after another. Like, you know, make the bed, brush your teeth, check your email, open your laptop, write one sentence, send a message, you know, things like that. This is where like this momentum, like building this momentum map and such, like it's this trail to these tiny wins that eventually build real progress. But at the end of the day, you look back and you're like, man, how did I get all this done? Like when I started with nothing. And it's like, the answer is you moved, you did something. It compounds over time. And then you track those things. Like we talked about earlier, the victory log, the more you track them, the better off you'll be. You know, it is such an amazing impact that it has on you based off of all that. You know, because here's the thing, overwhelm, it lies to you. It tells you you're stuck, that you need to make massive action to feel better. It tells you that you're failing because you can't do everything. You know, but you don't need to do everything, you just need to do something. That's where this like momentum starter is all about. It gives you your agency back. It's just one action, one shift, one moment that you just choose to show up anyways. That's how momentum is built. That's how you become someone who keeps moving forward, even on the days that used to feel like they used to shut you down. So here's what I want you to leave with today as a part of all this. Your power was never in controlling your chaos. You know, it was always in you controlling you. Your attitude, your effort. Those are the two things you never leave. Even on your worst days, even when everything else feels out of control. Most people spend their entire lives trying to manage, and control the outcomes, the timelines, other people's reactions. Like, I know I did it for years and it almost broke me. The day things finally shifted was the day that, like, I stopped trying to carry what wasn't mine and I focused on what I actually could. You know, my attitude and the energy I put towards things. Like, that's what it comes down to. It seems so simple. What's the effort I'm going to put in? What's my attitude that I'm going to give for this? You know? And so that's my invitation for you today. Pick one of the practices we talked about. Just one. Do the circle thing. You know, how do you scale your efforts? Choose a different lens. Take one small action, whatever that thing may be. Start somewhere small. Start today. Like, you'd be amazed how quickly, like, your internal power comes back when you stop fighting the battles that were never yours in the first place. Now, if you want to dive deeper into these concepts, like, that's where you're going to want to go. Use the link in the description to go get yourself a copy of the GIVER Method on Amazon. Like I said, it's on sale right now, so go get yourself a copy. You can also go to thegivermethod.com, get on the newsletter list, get into some of our free resources. Here's the thing. Everything in the book, everything that we teach is helping you to show up with more clarity and value and presence and purpose again. You know, so if you're wanting maybe even one-on-one help with that, someone to guide you through it, check out the one-on-one coaching link down below. And if you have a team, run an event, host a podcast, have a community, whatever that may look like, and you're like, man, this message would resonate with my people, then use the link down below. Let's talk about what it looks like to bring it to them. You know, the speaking and podcast link. If you haven't already, do all the YouTube things. Hit subscribe, ring that bell for notifications, drop a comment, tell me which of these things like is landing for you. Which one are you going to go try to put into place right away? And just remember this, you are not as far behind as you think. You are not as stuck as you feel. You're just one choice away from getting your power back, so you can make that choice today. You really start to gain your power back, gain your energy back, and really start to make the impact that only you can make. You've got this. I promise you, keep going forward. And so with that, I'll just say, hey, hopefully check out the other videos on the channel. There may be all sorts of other things that you jump out to you. Get yourself a copy of the GIVER Method. Check out thegivermethod.com. Hopefully we'll catch you in one of our upcoming videos. Have a great rest of your day.